Let's continue with part 2. Now we're on to the S for success. Now, self-perceptions of competence, a student's beliefs about her abilities, are central to many current motivation theories, including the self-concept theory. If they believe they can do it, they can do it. On the other hand, research suggests that humans have a need to be good at what they do. Looked at another way, individuals want to avoid incompetence and they want to be successful. The teacher needs to structure the course to be challenging and to provide feedback about students' knowledge and skills, and to provide the resources necessary for the student to succeed. You can watch the video on this page about providing qualitative feedback. Dr. Jones asks, do students understand the instructor's expectations of them? A good start is to provide clear, concise instructions, demonstrate the tasks, ensure that the students are confident that they know what they're doing. There's a very useful video on this page about giving clear instructions. The British Council support teachers who write the day's aims and objectives on the whiteboard. For example, by lunch break you will be better at describing a scene using past continuous and past simple tense. By the end of your project, you will be able to describe all the actions in the kitchen, understand tastes and textures of food, and present a cookery show. We're going to film your cookery show and post it onto a class website. This does tie you to your lesson aims and it takes away some of the flexibility of the course. However, it shows students their goals. Now, if you have a number of objectives, you can tick them off one by one as the class achieves them. This way, students can see for themselves how they're progressing throughout the morning. Dr. Jones asks, do students find learning activities challenging in that they're not too hard or too easy? Divide longer or more complex learning activities into manageable chunks that challenge but don't overwhelm the students. Take a few lessons to build the foundations for an activity. Always plan the easiest activity first. Remember, these kids are fresh from their own country and they haven't tuned their ear to the rhythms or the patterns of English yet. If you want students to role-play a doctor's surgery, then teach them the language to express advice, suggestions, recommendations. Then teach the vocabulary in a separate lesson. Recycle that vocabulary so it's embedded. Slowly build up the dialogue. Baby steps. Do students receive regular feedback about their level of competence? Encourage students to think about how they're progressing. They can make their own action plans, they can assess themselves, they can correct their own errors, they can build on their own strengths. But they need detailed and honest feedback from the teacher. There is a useful video on this page on how to offer feedback. Work towards the course goals in a series of small steps, mini victories. Use plenty of praise. Think of the course as a journey, each stage leading on to the next. A nice, coherent course shows students a clear progression. Use what you learned yesterday in today's lesson and build on it. Always recycle yesterday's achievements and take the next small step. On to interest. There's a temptation to present topics which we think will interest teenagers and young learners. For example, social media, smartphones, boy bands. And these topics might be interesting, but you're not one of them. You will never be a teenager again. Sorry. Be careful not to come across as patronising. Ask students what they're interested in. A teacher can influence the students' interest. It's our job to inspire them, to show them something new, and to broaden their horizons. Otherwise, what's the point of coming to England? but make sure that the topics and the skills that you teach are relevant to their age and their culture. Students' personal interests vary. You can survey the students on which general topics they want to cover. The situational interest is an interest in the temporary environment which the student occupies, and it's context specific. For example, this week's excursion, or the history and features of the place in which they're staying, British customs, British cultural norms. But individual interest emerges only when the students begin to get more detailed knowledge of the topic so they can connect. Thus, activities designed to capture the short-term attention of students with audio and visual elements, that might trigger situational interest, but not lead to individual interest unless the students also develop content knowledge and value it. The best way to stimulate personal interest is to explore the topic in more detail and to connect what students are learning about Britain to their own lives at home. Do students demonstrate situational interest to course activities? Design course activities and select content that relates to the student's background knowledge and interests. Students tend to be more interested in things they already know something about. Select course activities that stimulate emotions, because interest consists of an affective component. The teacher should think of ways to trigger the student's emotions and generate feelings about the content. There's a great framework for lesson planning called the Affective Framework by Professor Brian Tomlinson. Now, here's a bit of a hero of mine. You can find Brian Tomlinson's book online if you just Google Developing Materials for Language Teaching. I use a lot of art and emotive topics and music a lot, anything which engages the heart as well as the head. Variety is the spice of life. Remember that today's digitally minded generation, they don't always learn in a linear fashion by starting with a text in the top left-hand corner of the page. Instead, today's young people value networking and hypertexting and graphics. Use PowerPoint, use different teaching approaches. Maybe even use the students in the teaching process. Provide information which is surprising or inconsistent with students' previous knowledge and expectations. When students encounter a state of mental conflict between what they expect and what they experience, then they're motivated to resolve this conflict, and then deeper learning happens. Challenge those stereotypes and open some minds. But remember this acronym, PARSNIP. There's a parsnip for you. But it's not a vegetable. It stands for politics, alcohol, religion, sex, narcotics, isms, communism, Catholicism, Buddhism, and pork. These are the sensitive topics. It doesn't mean that you can't tackle these subjects, just be very, very wary and use your good judgment. Finally, if you're not enthusiastic about the course content, how can you expect the students to be? So you must pick topics that you care about and show a bit of passion. Be careful not to give your own opinions, though. It's down to the student to do the thinking, not you. Finally, caring. Teachers should show students that they care about whether they succeed. Now, caring, it doesn't mean that you've got to be good buddies with the students. Be friendly with the students. Don't show signs of dislike or irritation towards them. The key to designing for caring is that students believe that their instructor cares about their learning. If they think you care, they will try harder. That's not a surprise, is it? Caring relationships with instructors have been shown to be related to intrinsic motivation, positive coping, relative autonomy, engagement in school, expectancies, values, effort, cognitive engagement, self-efficacy, persistence and performance, all that good stuff. Research in 1998. Oh, there's your keyword for video number 2. Please make a note of that, milkshake. Research in 1998 shows that students' positive reaction to a caring relationship. Caring can include affection, which is liking, appreciation, enjoyment of the student, understanding, sympathy, empathy, availability when needed, interest in and detailed knowledge about the student, dedication of resources such as time, interest, energy, and emotional support. If you make this investment, it will be worth it. Dr. Jones asks, do students believe that you care about if they succeed? Or ask the students if they need any additional help. Listen to their opinions, even if you disagree. After all, it's not a teacher's opinion that matters, but it's the student's opportunity to express themselves, and this is golden time. If students want to express themselves, a teacher should focus on that young person, ask questions, appear interested, maybe use some techniques like reflective listening. If a student voices an opinion in class, it can be an opportunity to ignite a classroom discussion of debate. Also, be open to feedback. Ask students if they enjoyed the class. Did they enjoy what they learned? Don't forget Seul's feedback forms at the start and at the end of the course. You can always give them a glance and see what the students feel. Spend some time with your students as individuals. Just a 5-minute chat after class. Join them at lunchtime. It can make all the difference. Just stop and speak to students. So, what do you think? Is it worth the effort? I've adopted this model in my teaching for years, and the sheer pleasure of having motivated students working with you, not dragging their feet through a course, is absolutely golden. Now, I include a link under these videos to the music method paper published by Dr. Jones. It's 14 pages long, but it's an easy read. Try it for yourself and see if it works. Thanks for listening, and I hope this has been useful.